my opinion, the biggest waste of human resources in traffic management is to place enforcers in the middle of EDSA or any other busy thoroughfare and have them arm wave vehicles into the proper lane or direction. These enforcers are unnecessarily putting their lives on the line. You don't need to actually do it to know that standing in the middle of EDSA is a dangerous thing. Using people this way turns the men and women of traffic enforcement into human traffic cones. I say, stop human traffic cones. Hi, this is Vincent, and welcome to Right of Way, a vlog about traffic transport and road safety. In today's episode, we'll take up the issue of human traffic cones. I believe traffic enforcers shouldn't be used as traffic cones, but instead should focus their time on the relentless enforcement of traffic regulations. If the three rules of real estate investment are location, 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 then the three rules of road user discipline are enforcement, enforcement, enforcement. Segregating traffic, telling motorists which lane to use or where to make a U-turn, is the job of good road signs and pavement markings. That's why I dedicated 3 previous episodes to the importance of good signage. Well-designed and properly placed signs will inform motorists and other road users where to position themselves on the road, which lane to use when making turns, or who can use which part of the road. However, signs don't enforce themselves. This is where traffic enforcers come in. They exist to make sure that road users obey traffic signs and regulations. Okay, folks, we're gonna have a conversation with a guy named Michael Brown. He and I exchange tweets every now and then, especially on the traffic situation. And he and I share a lot of similar views about the importance of traffic enforcement. So he is currently in the United States, so I will call him up and have a short interview with him. Tell our viewers a little bit of your background in enforcement and law enforcement.
Okay, well, my background's primarily law enforcement. I served in the military for 20 years, and I was a military policeman during that time. You know, I've spent the last, off and on the last almost 30 years in the Philippines, in Metro Manila. And almost from the beginning, from way back when, I was looking at the way traffic worked or didn't work.
Tell me, Michael, how important is enforcement in creating an orderly sort of flow of traffic? How important is enforcement?
Enforcement is everything. You know, ideally in a traffic situation, you want self-discipline, but self-discipline starts with enforced discipline. Self-discipline is the ideal, but self-discipline comes from or evolves out of enforced discipline.
Yeah, this is a conversation I've been trying to have with the MMDA on Twitter. And you've joined in on those conversations. The need for what I would call relentless enforcement of the rules.
Yeah.
And in a tweet I received from the MMDA chair, he said, what he told me was that they can't enforce the rules during, let's say, rush hour. Because when they do that and they pull the car to the side to issue a ticket, that causes more traffic. And therefore, I would assume what he's saying is that during rush hours, their priority is just to get traffic moving by waving them through. This is what I call the arm waving philosophy of traffic management.
Well,
what is your opinion of that?
He's not wrong. He's not entirely wrong in the sense that the way to keep traffic moving at the moment is to keep herding them along as fast as possible. You know, traffic tickets aren't punishment. Traffic tickets are deterrence. The idea being you're not getting in trouble for say, beating a red light. They're creating a situation where you're afraid to beat the red light because you will incur a ticket and a fine and all the inconvenience that goes with that. So he is absolutely right that if you pull somebody over in the middle of heavy traffic and issue a ticket, you're going to momentarily increase the congestion. But if you do that consistently and the drivers are afraid of getting stopped and, more importantly, getting a ticket and having to pay a fine and having to go pick up their license, all the horrible process that goes on when you get a ticket in the Philippines, If the drivers are afraid that that's going to happen every time that they commit a violation, the deterrence factor kicks in, and they will reduce their number of violations.
I know that you have in the past advised the MMDA, but for the purpose of this interview, if you were to give MMDA some advice, again, through this vlog, what would you tell them?
Right. Well, yeah, I did work as a volunteer consultant with MMDA for about 6 months under the previous administration, and made some fairly voluminous recommendations. But yeah, if I were to advise them now, I would tell them to go to basics. Go back. I can't say go back to the basics because I'm not sure they've ever applied the basics.
Right.
The basics are strict enforcement.
Yeah.
If you want to create a self-disciplined environment, you've got to start with enforced discipline. And what that means is, you pull somebody over and you give him a ticket, not with an eye towards punishing what he did, but with an eye towards making him afraid of doing it again. Traffic in Metro Manila, I've said this a million times, traffic in Metro Manila is congested, chaotic, and dangerous because the enforcement agencies allow it to be congested, chaotic, and dangerous.
Thank you again, Michael,
Sure.
for your time and sharing your experience and expertise in this area. And good luck there in Oklahoma with whatever you're doing with your family, and hope to talk to you soon again.
Thank you very much, Vincent. I appreciate it.
One of the things that Michael said is that tickets aren't issued for punishment, but for their deterrent effect. If road users know with a great amount of certainty that they will get a ticket for road violations, then more often than not, it will deter them from committing violations in the future. This is the state we want to be in. Unfortunately, many motorists know that they won't get caught, and in some instances are even rewarded for breaking the rules. Let's take a look at a couple of examples where road regulations are blatantly disregarded. In these examples, the violations occur within eyesight of the traffic enforcers. In this video, you'll see that in the span of about 5 minutes, there are 9 U-turn violations committed, 8 by tricycle drivers and 1 by a motorcycle rider. The MMDA traffic enforcer is only about 75 meters away, and although he is facing away from the trouble spot, the frequency of the violations and the boldness of the drivers tell me that they don't fear being caught. This raises many troublesome questions. But let's not read too much into the situation and take it at face value. Keep your eye on the enforcer. He's spending his time watching the flow of vehicles and not really doing much if you think about it. All the while, violations occur right behind his back. 9 violations in 5 minutes. If you do the math, that would average out to 108 violations per hour. This video is taken on a Saturday at around 4 in the afternoon. This is a typical Saturday afternoon. No holiday, no suspension of traffic rules, just an ordinary Saturday. If at this one area, 108 violations occur with no enforcement in the span of 1 hour, imagine how many violations happen all over Metro Manila in the span of 24 hours. And we're only talking about moving violations, not even violations concerning broken taillights or headlights, smoke belching, etc. On to our next example. Again, we have MMDA traffic enforcers in the area. Notice how, within meters of where they are standing, jeepneys routinely load and unload passengers right in front of a no loading and unloading sign. These aren't isolated incidents. They occur with regular frequency that again raises troublesome questions. My point with these two examples is that if traffic enforcers aren't going to enforce the rules and regulations consistently, then it creates a sense that no one is watching and no one cares. This is what broken windows theorists say could lead to even more disorder. As a result, you don't have the deterrent effect that Michael was talking about. When relentless enforcement deters road users from committing violations, that's when we've achieved self-discipline. It's not going to happen by itself, and it's certainly not going to happen when you use enforcers as human traffic cones. So what are my recommendations for traffic managers? For this episode, I only have one. Stop human traffic cones, and instead, focus on even, consistent, and relentless enforcement. That brings us to the end of this episode of Right of Way. For those of you who are interested, we'll be uploading the full interview with Michael Brown. I encourage you to watch it because he says many valuable things about the importance of enforcement. If you have any photos, videos, ideas or suggestions that you'd like to share with us, you can email us at rightofway@rappler.com, or you can send us a message on Twitter, Instagram or Facebook at rightofwayph. Until then, this is Vincent, and I'm out of here. Stay safe on the road, guys.